My beloved child, today I draw near and touch the deepest place within you, the place you have called by many different names, yet never dared to name correctly. You have called it delay, missed timing, a wrong season. God has forgotten me. You look at doors that have stayed shut for a long time and name this season being held back, as if you are stuck behind while everyone else moves forward. But I tell you this, you call it delay, but I call it the waiting room of the glory I have placed over your life. This moment is not a lost minute drifting in meaningless time. This is the appointed moment in which I step into your story to rename the season you are living. I do not come to deny your weariness. I come to give new meaning to every second you thought was wasted. Today I do not speak to the crowd, I speak to you, the one reading these words and silently asking, have I truly fallen behind? I have seen the times you open your phone, stare at messages that never arrive, and your heart sinks with no one to explain it to. In my eyes, the long months you waited for, unanswered prayers have not drifted away in vain. Every doubtful breath has reached me. When your friends walk through doors you once longed for, I stand beside your congratulating smile and hear clearly the whisper in your heart, what about mine? Every time you conclude there must be something wrong with you. It does not hide from me. It appears like cracks on an unpolished gem. You try to make yourself busier, more productive, so you will not have to face what has not yet come. But when night falls, every comforting word you once gave to others becomes too small to cover your own heart. You call this season delay because you see no flow, only a still lake so silent it frightens you. But I have been there, at the very center of the unmoving water, preparing something your eyes are not yet able to see. My child, you must understand why I choose this moment to speak to you. Not because today you prayed correctly compared to other days, nor because you reached some spiritual level that finally caught my attention. I speak now because this is the intersection between your weariness and the glory I refuse to let you miss, simply because you misnamed the season you are in. If you insist on calling the waiting room a prison, you will try every possible way to escape instead of sitting still to receive instruction. If you think this is punishment, you will spend all your energy defending yourself instead of opening your heart to be prepared. I come to tell you plainly this season is not a meaningless gap between two chapters. It is the room I prepared beforehand, a room where I set tools, words, correction, and healing so you can enter glory without being crushed by the very thing you prayed for. I speak now because you are dangerously close to drawing the wrong conclusion about me and about yourself. You live in a world where speed is honored as a measure of value. People count years, milestones, and accomplishments like markers on a highway, and anyone who moves slowly is judged as out of rhythm. You have breathed that air so long that you began to measure yourself by charts that never came from me. Every time a plan is postponed, you ask, did I pray wrong? Do I not believe enough? Am I being punished? You forget that I do not use the world's clock to measure your growth. What you call slow may in fact be perfectly in step with my heartbeat. Many times you have tried to carve your own path simply because you could not bear to stand in the hallway of waiting, and every time, your soul steps out of the safe place I arranged. You are exhausted because you keep pretending you are fine with the pace you are in, while deep inside you feel left behind. But I have seen every moment you wrestled between accepting God's will and the fear that you are merely comforting yourself to avoid pain. I want you to understand this. If I only wanted you to survive, I would never have placed you in such a deliberately crafted waiting room. I did not put you here to kill time. I brought you here to save you from the things ready to destroy your soul if they arrive too soon. The things you hope for may be good, but timing is part of the blessing. A door opened in the wrong season can become a burden too heavy for you to bear, even if it is the very blessing you prayed for. My waiting room is not a cold corridor with empty walls. It is a place where I quietly reorder your priorities, where I heal the fractures inside you that you covered with work, service, or achievement. I know you are tired of hearing the phrase, God has his timing, when it is tossed around like an empty slogan. That is why I do not come to repeat it. I come to breathe life into its true meaning. So you understand that my timing is not a justification, but a protection. In this waiting room, I do not stretch time simply to test you. I am aligning your steps with mine. Have you noticed how many of your deepest questions are born in seasons people label as delay? Only when everything on the surface stands still do you dare to touch the cracks beneath. You begin to ask, what am I actually running toward if I no longer have those achievements? What do I truly think of myself? If my prayer is not answered in the way I imagined, do I still believe you are good? These questions are not evidence of weak faith. They are the doorway I use to lead you into deeper places. I am not afraid of your questions. I am afraid when you stop asking and simply conclude that I have left. I see you biting your lip when others boast of breakthroughs, forcing a smile while your inner world counts again the dreams that should have been done by now. I see you using the phrase "never mind" to cover the ache of why is it taking so long, and your heart slowly closing itself to expectation. I come to touch that very soil, the place where you buried old hopes and called it maturity. My child, it is no coincidence that you are reading these words today. You did not stumble here by accident while scrolling. I have followed your journey through every season, and now I choose to use this language, this moment, to pivot your vision. I want you to grasp one truth clearly before we go further. You are not suspended between already forgotten and maybe remembered someday. You are standing in a waiting room designed specifically for you, where every detail exists to prepare you for the glory that will rest upon your shoulders. I am not speaking of glory in the sense of fame or spotlight. I speak of the glory of carrying my presence into the places I send you. The glory of standing firm in storms without breaking. The glory of living according to the name I appointed for you from the beginning. I want you to know why I speak today, because it is time for you to stop calling this place delay and begin to face it as a sacred training chamber. You see others moving forward, and you see yourself standing still. So you conclude that I have failed in my plans for your life. Each time you scroll your phone and look at the success of others, your heart aches with an unspoken question. What about me? You begin to learn how to smile in front of people. But in the dark, you wonder whether I have turned in another direction, leaving you behind in the hallway without warning. You call that emptiness delay, as though I am pulling you out of the race. But you do not know that I am not letting you stand still. I am simply taking you into a sealed room where the eyes of the world cannot see. In that room, I do not arrange your timeline according to the rhythm of the crowd. I turn over every layer of your heart to see whether your roots are deep enough to bear the weight of the glory I will place upon you. You look at the surface and see nothing moving. But in me, where the space of the soul operates, I am shifting every foundational stone without your awareness. You think delay is evidence that I have forgotten my promise. You have whispered many times, perhaps God has forgotten me, or I have done something that made him withdraw his intentions. But you do not know that often delay is the evidence that my hand is digging deep into your roots. I do not heal the surface. I dig down to where old wounds have become unconscious engines. You want glory to come quickly, so you can prove you are not behind anyone. I want glory to come slowly, so you will not be forced to live inside it with the fear of losing it. You think delay is an obstacle. I call it a surgery without anesthesia, where I trace every nerve of your soul to remove the roots that grew out of comparison, out of inferiority, out of the panic of being left behind. I know you are tired, but you do not understand that there is a fatigue that only appears right before true roots begin to grow deep. There are doors I will not let you open early, not because I am withholding blessing, but because if glory arrives while your roots are shallow, you will break under the very weight of the blessing you prayed for. I have seen many rush through doors that opened sooner than they expected, only to bend beneath the first gust of wind because they had no roots to keep them standing. I see you standing before a door, knocking endlessly, then knocking harder, then falling silent because you fear others will hear the desperation in your knocking. You ask, if this is good, why won't you open it? I answer, because I see behind that door a pressure you cannot see. I do not need you to become a famous ruin. I need you to become a child who knows how to use glory to serve, not to prove that you deserve to exist. You call the days when you cannot get anything done a waste. You pick up the pen, then put it down, write a few lines, then delete everything. You plan to publish something, then save it to drafts because you fear people will not understand. Fear it is not good enough. Fear comparison. When you open a job application and close it again, the whisper, "Not yet," does not escape my notice. Enrolling in a course and stopping halfway is not a period, in my eyes. It is the scratch left by wounded expectation from watching others move faster. You dissect yourself piece by piece, as if every pause were a photograph of your soul stamped useless to me. Those photographs are only evidence that you are exhausted from trying to prove yourself. The days the world calls wasted, I call the days I am rearranging the engine within you. When you tire yourself trying to accomplish something just to prove to others that you are worthy, I take you into the waiting room so you learn to walk for me, not for the gaze of others. I remove the needles of comparison that have pierced your heart since the years you did not even know you had been wounded. You do not understand that being stuck is not always your enemy. Sometimes I let you stand before a wall where every skill, every goal, every method fails, not to shame you, but to reveal the limits of the resources you have clung to for so long. You learn to rely on momentum born of excitement. You learn to run on inspiration, but when inspiration dies, you go numb. I bring you into the waiting room so you will learn to live by steadiness, to govern your steps by faith rather than by the dopamine of praise. I do not bring you here to rest. I bring you here to uproot every weak root you mistook for strength. I know there are nights you whisper to yourself, "Am I deceiving myself when I call this a season of waiting?" You fear that every comforting word you have heard is just paint covering cracks. You feel as though you are trapped in a foggy land, too inadequate to move forward, but too worn to return. Each morning you wake. You look at your calendar, look at your to-do list, and your body does not respond. Your hands do not want to write. Your legs do not want to walk. Your heart does not want to pray. You live in a paradox, always wanting to move, while every part of you refuses to obey. And in that paradox, I still stand beside you, not leaving you even a single step. I see you blaming yourself, not for grand failures, but for every small delay. You say, "I will do it today," then postpone it another day. You say, "When I am stronger," then wait for a strength that never appears. You say, "Let me get stable first." But stable to you is a condition that never arrives. Each time, you carve a mark on your mind. I am a failure. You think you are evaluating your actions, but in truth, you are evaluating your worth. I see you looking at yourself with judgment harsher than you would ever place on anyone else. I do not condemn you. I have watched many of my children dissect their own souls like untrained surgeons, then diagnose themselves with diseases I never authored. You have asked before, can God still use someone like me? You think it is a question about the future, but in truth it is a lament about the present. I do not tremble before that question. I am not offended when you doubt yourself, but I grieve when you doubt my purpose. You do not know that it is in your weakness that I do my greatest work, not because I ignore weakness, but because only when you see yourself stripped bare will you allow me to rebuild from the roots. You think I delay because I have not yet found the best path for you, but you do not know that long before you uttered your first prayer, I already saw your entire journey stretched before me like a ribbon. I do not measure your life by the years that have passed. I measure it by the endurance of your spirit. While you still anchor your hope in the affirmations of others, I cannot yet let you enter the season of glory, not because you are not skilled enough, but because glory placed on the foundation of proving yourself will become chains around your soul. I do not want you to pay for glory with the price of your peace just to prove you are not inadequate. You think if everything came sooner, you would hurt less. But I see the deeper wounds you would suffer if you walked through those doors before learning how to stand firm by my name rather than the applause of your own. My child, there have been many times when you told yourself, I just need to get past the first step, then everything will be fine. But you did not know that the very first step you were trying to leap over is the place where I am dealing with the root within you. You want life to look like a plan on paper idea. Action. Harvest. But my reality does not operate like the timeline you draw in your notebook. There are moments when I allow you to see the future clearly, but I do not allow you to step into it yet. Because if you touch the promise while your motives are still unrefined, you will turn that promise into a tool to cover your fear. You know this because you have thought, if I can be promoted, if I achieve something, if someone recognizes me, then I will no longer feel insecure. You believe glory is medicine. But glory only magnifies what already exists. If your heart fears comparison, glory will make you live in panic. If your heart thirsts for validation, glory will turn you into an addict of the spotlight. I love you too much to release you into such a place while your knees are not strong enough to stand. There are seasons when I lay you down quietly, and you assume I have abandoned you. You begin gathering small failures and shaping them into accusations against yourself. Someone's rejection becomes the mirror that reflects your worth. A single unanswered email becomes a verdict, I am not good enough. A half-finished project makes you sigh. I can never accomplish anything. I watch you collect these fragments and build an invisible cage to lock yourself inside. Meanwhile, I am bringing you back to the only place strong enough to shatter that cage, not the place of success, but the neutral ground between expectation and reality, the waiting room. There I teach you to see yourself through my eyes rather than the gaze of the crowd. I do not pull you out of the race, I pull you out of the wolves. A sheep that is not recovered cannot survive the battlefield of the soul. And I saw you nearly breaking while still trying to keep up so you would not fall behind. I know you cannot bear the feeling of being slower than others. You call it failure. But to me, it is the sign that you have stepped into a land where old methods no longer work. You used to rely on the ability to learn quickly, to endure pressure, to solve problems. Those abilities carried you a certain distance, but they cannot take you through the doors that relate to destiny. I close the paths you are familiar with, not because they are wrong, but because they are too narrow for the future I am giving you. You think I am hindering you, but in truth, I am teaching you to stop living by skill and to start living by revelation. You cannot walk into glory through self-made methods. You must enter by surrendering to me. And it is only when you feel helpless that you finally understand how much you need me. There are stories you think you understand, but you have only seen the surface. You see Joseph in prison and think, a dreamer locked away, but you do not see my hand in that darkness, where I healed in Joseph the very thing the throne would later crush. If I had brought him to power while his heart still longed for the approval of his family, glory would have become the weapon that destroyed him. You look at Abraham living year after year with Sarah's womb still empty and think, the promise is meaningless. But I saw a refining of faith. Where waiting did not break belief, waiting planted its roots in me, not in circumstance. You see the disciples, after witnessing my resurrection, still told to wait in Jerusalem, and think, why not send them at once, because I knew they could preach. But they did not yet know how to live in the power of the Holy Spirit. If I had sent them early, they would have turned the mission into a career, but when they waited long enough, they became witnesses. You are living in a world where every achievement is displayed like a leaderboard. You see younger people succeed, your classmates nominated, your colleagues promoted. You hear words that seem harmless. Maybe this line of work isn't for you. Maybe you should change direction. And each time, you do not hear with your ears, you hear with your fear. Every sentence strikes at the tender roots, struggling to grow. You curl into the silence of the waiting room and sentence yourself, if God truly chose me. I should be moving faster. But you forget one truth: I never allow the enemy to define your pace. I do not compare you with others. I look at the glory you will carry, not the glory others possess. I prepare you for a path no one has walked before, therefore, no one else's rhythm can measure you. There are days when I let you face your own helplessness, not to drive you into despair, but to pry your hands away from what you no longer control. I do not invite you into the waiting room to sit idly. I bring you there to strip away the layers of armor you use to defend yourself. When you try to hide your weakness behind performance, I call you back to the place where I can lay my hand upon wounds no one sees. I know discovering your fragility is uncomfortable. You feel exposed. But in my hands, weakness is not shame, it is the material of restoration. I do not build pillars from human steel. I form foundations out of souls that have learned to place their fears at my feet. You begin doubting not only your future, but even your past. You look back at seasons when you were full of energy, when you began boldly, and you watch them fall like petals ripped away by the wind. You ask, was everything I believed about calling just an illusion? I see that question seep into your heart, not through shouts, but through whispers. Maybe I was never meant to do anything great. Maybe I am just a normal person trying to convince myself God has a plan. You never spoke it aloud, but I heard it in your eyes when you glance past the mirror, in the way you avoid looking at half-finished projects, in the times you fall silent when someone asks, when will you finish? I do not condemn you for those thoughts. I only want you to know that in this waiting room, I am sweeping away every lie that has clung to your soul like fine dust. There are things you thought were fleeting emotions, but they are actually signals I am placing in your heart. Your exhaustion toward empty praise, your indifference when you see the success of others, your numbness before your own plans. None of these are the end of faith. They are the collapse of the structures you built to survive without me. You once relied on motivational words like painkillers. Just keep trying. You'll get there. But that medicine has lost its effect, and I have allowed you to discover that you cannot continue running on emotional fuel. I want you to taste the fuel found only in the waiting room, patience breathed by my spirit, not the adrenaline of ambition. You think you are being left behind, but in truth I am leading you into a place where running no longer matters. You no longer see the race because I have placed you at a different depth. Surface progress is no longer what I desire. I want you to see the movement within fear, slowly dissolving. Dependence on emotion weakening. Faith no longer fragile like glass but beginning to thicken like forged iron. You cannot feel the transformation because it happens like roots pushing through hardened earth. It makes no sound. It produces no light. But when it has gone deep enough, even the strongest winds cannot uproot the young tree. I have seen you attempt to break through by forcing yourself to work, not because you love the mission, but because you fear losing your worth. You turn on the computer, open the project, type a few lines, then close it. Not because you are lazy, but because your mind is tangled. You cannot distinguish between the effort to grow and the effort to escape the feeling of failure. You set goals not to step into my will, but to avoid facing your pain. I cannot allow you to walk into glory from that position. Glory is not a cloak meant to cover panic. Glory is fire. If you carry it while your heart is still filled with the smoke of fear, you will suffocate in your own faith. My child, there are battles I deliberately keep in place so you cannot hide behind busyness. I know you when you hurt. You bury yourself in work when you are afraid. You help others when you are insecure. You rush to do countless meaningless things to forget your worries. But I do not forget. I bring you into the waiting room where every escape route is locked. Not because I want to torment you, but because I want to return you to the very question you run from. Do you trust me as your God, even when you are not moving quickly, as long as you attach my words to the pace of your life? Your faith has not yet learned to stand. I must silence every external proof so you may learn to hear me with spiritual ears. You see others advancing not because they are better than you. They are merely walking the path suited to their roots. I do not mass-produce destinies. I do not distribute identical promises to everyone. You see their success and say, they deserve it. I see them walking in their assignment. You see yourself standing still and say, I am unworthy. I see you being corrected in perspective. For I know that when you step out of the waiting room, no one will be able to send you back through comparison. You will know who you are in me, not who you are in the eyes of others. There are moments when you pray without words. There are moments when you stare at the floor and simply sigh. You think it is a sign of exhaustion, but in truth, it is the soul changing its language. When you stop asking for dazzling things and begin to ask, Lord, do not let me lose myself. I know the waiting room has begun its work. I do not wait for you to pray correctly. I wait for your heart to remove its armor and speak truth to me. In this season, I want you to learn how to breathe inside me, not strive to earn my acceptance. The waiting room is not a place of death. It is the burial ground of what you no longer need to carry. The labels you gave yourself, the illusions you used to survive, the identities you constructed from pressure, I bury them here so when you walk out, you will not drag the past behind you like a coffin of dried corpses. You will walk lightly, because only the part of you that belongs to me will remain. I know there are times you think, maybe God chose the wrong person. But hear me, I never choose wrongly. I only choose earlier than you think you're ready. And because I choose early, I must prepare deeply. That preparation does not happen on the stage. It happens in the waiting room, in the place with no audience, no applause, no ranking. In the place where there is only me and you. You begin to look at every delay as evidence of failure. You recall the opportunities that came and slipped away. The moments when someone said, this is your time, but you did not have the strength to grasp it. You think I diminished you, but I am shielding you from a battlefield where you have not yet learned how to hold a sword. I do not usher you into glory through recklessness. I lead you through preparation. Glory is not like a ticket to a show, where you simply walk in, sit down, and enjoy. It is a stage where the one who steps onto it must withstand the lights, the commentary, the pressure, the responsibility, and the loneliness of depth. If you step onto it while your heart still relies on outward affirmation, you will melt under its heat. I must teach you quietly that you were not born to bloom and wither in moments. You were born to burn continuously with fuel from me, not from applause. There are days when you feel like you are falling out of orbit. You no longer know where you stand on this journey. You no longer know who you are in my plan. You say, maybe I took the wrong turn. Maybe I must start over. But you do not know that I am dismantling the tracks others placed under your feet so I can lay my own. You are accustomed to living according to the expectations of your parents, your friends, those who once had influence over your life. You are used to chasing milestones that society labels as proof of worth. I will not let you continue on that path, because it would lead you to a place I never spoke over you. So, I halt you not to shame you, but so you may realize you were never running from me. You were only running to avoid being overlooked. I know there are nights you cannot sleep. You lie staring at the ceiling, wondering what becomes of your future if nothing changes tomorrow. You think I am silent, but in truth I am taking away your ability to save yourself, the one you have relied on for so many years. You once believed that if you worked hard enough, were clever enough, persistent enough, you would overcome. But I will not allow you to live a self-reliant life. You are my child, not a slave to productivity. When you encounter the limits of your own strength, it is not because you have run dry. It is because I am pulling you out of skill and pushing you into surrender. You always thought you needed new strength to move forward, but what you truly need is to learn how to kneel. There are words you have carried in your heart so long that they became your compass. I must succeed early. I cannot let anyone see me weak. I must prove I have worth. Those words have become a headwind against your spirit, blowing into every decision and every prayer. You thought they were motivation, but they are chains. In this waiting room, I unwind each thread, even if it hurts you, not because I wish to humiliate you, but because I want you to know that your worth is not in breakthrough, it is in the identity I placed within you. When the wind grows quiet and there is no one cheering, I want you to still stand, not because of reputation, but because I am speaking to you. You belong to me. You see others walking forward with steady steps, and you think, why can't I be like them? But I see different routes. Some must walk quickly because they carry only a light burden. Some must walk slowly because I have placed a heavy portion upon them. Some arrive early because they bear testimony. Some arrive late because they carry deliverance. Your pace is not a deficiency, it is my strategy. I do not let you run to the beat of drums outside. I make you move by the rhythm of my heart. And that is why the waiting room suffocates you, because there are no drums here. Only my heart beats slow and steady, one pulse at a time, one step at a time, neither rushed nor frantic. My child, there is something you have not yet seen. I do not bring you into the waiting room only to prepare you, but to protect you from your own desires. You think your dream is pure, but I have seen the pieces inside: the fear of being left behind, the obsession with having a place, the panic that rises when you no longer have anything to prove. If I opened the door while those motives were still alive, you would carry glory like painkillers, and those painkillers would become your addiction. I do not want you addicted to glory. I want you free in glory. That is why I keep you here. I let you hurt with truth. I let you feel discomfort in silence. I let you collide with limitations, not to destroy you, but to cleanse you so you may carry glory as a messenger, not as a desperate addict. I know this makes you feel lonely, but loneliness in the waiting room is not like loneliness out there. Out there, loneliness devalues you. In me, loneliness makes you precious. Because the loneliness here is not that you are abandoned, it is that you are set apart, like seeds buried beneath the soil, where there is no light, no applause, no praise. Men call that death. I call it gestation. Every crack in the shell, every moment you want to give up, every tear that falls onto your pillow, I record them, not to count them, but to water the sprouts of life you cannot yet see. My child, I know there are nights when you sit before the dim glow of your screen, your cursor hovering over post, only to lower it again. You type a few sentences and erase them, not because you have nothing to say, but because you fear the silence after speaking. You fear no one will respond. You fear a handful of pity hearts, a few polite comments, and your soul gaining yet another piece of evidence to conclude, I am not worth anyone stopping for. I am right there, in that moment when you look at the post button as if it were a doorway, and I know you are fighting a battle deeper than anyone realizes. You are not lazy. You are stuck between the desire to be used and the fear of being dismissed. I see the unfinished files, the drafts that never get sent, the ideas scribbled hurriedly into your phone and left there. You call them the corpses of procrastination, but I call them evidence that your soul still longs to participate in the story I am writing, even if you have not stepped out yet. I do not mock those incomplete lines of thought. I read them the way a father reads his child's first attempts at handwriting. The strokes still tremble, the letters still crooked, but I see the heart behind them. You think I am pleased only with what is polished. I am fascinated by what is still becoming. There are mornings you wake with fresh resolve. Today I'll finish. Then by noon, a message, a post, an offhand comment throws you off. You close your laptop again, telling yourself, maybe another day. Each time, you are not merely pausing, you carve a minus sign into yourself. You think I look at all your unfinished attempts like a failing report card. But I see the countless times you wanted to quit yet still dared to consider beginning again. I do not count how many times you fall. I count how many times you still have enough belief to consider standing up. You have become used to judging yourself faster than anyone else. One missed deadline. One unanswered question. One moment of walking into a meeting feeling like the least knowledgeable, and you immediately write the verdict: I am lazy. I am a procrastinator. I lack discipline. I want you to hear me clearly. Those verdicts did not come from my mouth. I have never called you by those names. You hang them around your own neck like metal plaques. And then whenever anyone mentions discipline, productivity, or goals, you lower your head. My child, the waiting room is not where I issue sentences. It is where I tear those plaques off your neck. You look at others and see how they keep habits consistently, maintain precise schedules, set clear plans. Then you look at yourself, your calendar scarred with erasures, arrows moving things forward, goals marked next month. You say, Lord, maybe I'm just the type who will never change. And I answer, no. You are simply in the phase where I am still tuning the engine before applying speed. A car with a faulty engine, no matter how fast it runs, will soon break down. I do not want you to be the car that impresses with its roar and dies midway. I want you to be the car that can journey long. Even when no one is standing on the roadside cheering, I see you delaying even the things you know are good, a time of prayer, a phone call to someone who needs comfort, a small act of help. You do not understand why you do this. And then you scold yourself, I'm selfish. I only care about myself. But I see deeper. I see beneath that delay lies a soul that has given too many times without receiving. A soul that has tried to stay strong without any support. You do not procrastinate because you do not love others. You procrastinate because you believe you have nothing left to give. In the waiting room, I do not call you only to labor. I call you to drink first. I fill your cup before I ask you to pour into another. I know there are times you plan to spend time with me, but as the moment approaches, you scroll through the internet, drifting into countless tabs, countless videos, countless unrelated stories. When you notice, you say, it's already late. I'll do it tomorrow. Then you gather all those tomorrows and build a statue named I do not love God enough. I come to the waiting room to shatter that statue. I do not measure your love by crystal hours, perfect schedules, or devotional sessions captured in photos. I measure it by every time you return, even if only for 2 or 3 minutes. Even if only with a sigh toward me, please don't abandon me. My child, before I rename the waiting room, I want you to look at it once with me, not with the eyes of shame, but with the eyes of a student. Look at the unfinished pages, the rescheduled plans, the opportunities that slipped away. Look at them and acknowledge the pain, the regret, the self-blame. Then let me stand beside you and say, I am here. I am not fleeing from this mess. I set my feet upon the floor of your waiting room, and from this moment it belongs to me. When you allow me to enter, every shadowed corner of that room becomes a place where I rebuild the table, the chair, the light, and the breath. And right on that threshold, I begin preparing to rename this room before your eyes. My child, today I rename the room you are standing in. You have written the words delay on its door, written them with sweat, with tears, and with every moment you were disappointed in yourself. But from this moment on, I decree that sign is torn from your hand. I place my hand on the door frame and hang a new sign, the waiting room of glory. You tremble as you realize how long you have been cursing a sacred process, yet I stand inside the very room you mistook for a prison, and I turn it into the place where I clothe you with the armor of the chosen. I break every sentence you have spoken over yourself. I'm lazy. I'm useless. I'm slower than the others. I'm not enough. and I replace them with my decree. You are being trained in the waiting room of the Lord. The neon lights that flickered in the room of your mind suddenly burn, steady not from fear, but because I place my fire within you. You no longer need to force yourself to prove anything. I stamp your life's boarding pass with the seal, on time and my plan. You are not late. I have simply reserved your seat on the train that I drive. My child, hear my words as thunder tearing through the chains in your mind. I have not abandoned you in delay. I have hidden you in preparation. You called those years failure. I call them the concrete foundation upon which my glory can descend without crushing you. You bound your own eyes with comparisons, but I tear the bandage from your vision so you may see the path that belongs to you. All the things that once made you ashamed now become evidence of how I guarded your soul from burdens that would have arrived in the wrong season. I speak, and my word does not return empty, for the vision awaits an appointed time, if it lingers. Wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay. Habakkuk 2:3. You condemned yourself, thinking I did not arrive, but I arrived long ago, just not according to the schedule you demanded. You wept because you thought you were late. Yet I wipe your tears and say, you are not late. I am leading you at the perfect time. You are not abandoned at the platform where others have passed. You are standing in the waiting room where I prepare you to sit in the carriage of destiny, so that when it moves, you will not merely follow, you will lead. My child, when I rename this room, the silence does not vanish overnight. You will still wake in the morning and see no door opened. But this time, you will no longer look at it with the eyes of someone left behind. You will touch the old wall and realize it is not a prison, it is the place where I have left my fingerprints. You will take a deep breath and feel your heart lighten, not because you know exactly when things will change, but because you know who holds the key. You no longer look at others as your measuring stick, but as travelers walking paths I designed for them. You will see yourself still in the waiting room, but your heart will have left the hard chair of disappointment and sat in the seat. I prepared the seat named Under the Guard of God. I do not invite you to run, I invite you to breathe. You do not need to tell the world that you understand. You need only to let me witness the shift inside you. You do not need to rewrite your goals or prove that you have grown up. You simply need to allow your heart to stop resisting the season of waiting and open itself to my presence. It is in that quiet that you hear what you were once too loud to notice. I have never been rushed. I am always on time. And I do not prepare you merely to arrive safely. I prepare you to walk into places only those who have endured the waiting room can withstand. My beloved child, let every step from now on come as slowly as the breath I place within you. Look back at the nights you thought you were alone and see that I was always beside you. My hand resting on your shoulder as a father who understands every tremor. Let gratitude replace regret, for if I have kept you this long, surely it is not so you would leave empty-handed. The waiting room is no longer a place of suffering, it is a place of protection. And from this day forward, whenever you see delay, you will know how to whisper within your heart, this is not punishment, this is his guarding hand. My child, I place my hand upon the very lips that once cursed themselves, and I lift from them every word. I am slow. I am a failure. I'm broken, pulling out each thorn from a heart learning to beat again. I take hold of your wrist, the one you once bound with, the expectations of others, and I mark it with my seal, appointed time. You tremble because I do not merely rename the room, I rename the person who walks within it. I stand in the room you once called the place of failure, and I shatter the four walls that blinded you. The stains on the wall are not evidence that you wasted your life. They are the map I drew using your sweat and tears. I tear the ticket stamped expired from your hand and imprint upon it in season. You are not a passenger who missed the train. You are the one I held back because only you have the constitution to board the train I prepared. You tremble as you realize that for years you bowed at the altar of speed. While I was calling you to the table of preparation, I do not fling the door open prematurely, because I do not want glory to destroy you, I want glory to clothe you. You mistook the waiting room for a cage, but I declare it to be a forge of the soul. Where my fire does not burn you, it matures you. From this moment on, every weary whisper you have ever spoken, I gather into one decree. You call it delay, I call it the waiting room of the glory I placed upon your life. And when you rise from the floor, your soul will hear the old iron lock fall, not because it was opened from the outside, but because I have opened it from within you, my beloved child. From today, the waiting room is no longer the place you hide, but the place where I teach you to walk slowly, yet steadily. You are used to breakthroughs, to the feeling that everything must change now. But I do not want you to explode and then collapse. I want you to grow like roots sinking into the earth, slow, steady, enduring. I do not ask you to leap out of every delay in a single day. I take you by the hand and walk one step at a time, turning every small action into the practice of obedience, washing the cup left overnight, sending the single email you have avoided, opening the old notebook just to write one page. You think these things meaningless, but I see them as the paving stones of the road toward what I have promised. I do not require you to wake with blazing passion every morning. I simply invite you to sit at the table you've been afraid to look at. Clear a small corner and lay an open Bible there. You do not need the resolve of, I will rewrite my whole life. You only need to write one line like a prayer. Today, I will do one thing with you. The morning sunlight does not suddenly become brighter. It still comes through the window as always, but this time it falls upon a soul that no longer despises small steps. In the waiting room, I do not demand achievements. I build character so you will be strong enough to carry what I have promised. I know the bricks of character do not shine in the eyes of the world, but they shine clearly in the realm of the Spirit. My child, I do not leave you alone with the pressure of doing something great. When you enter the kitchen and cook a proper meal for yourself, instead of skipping it, I stand beside you like a father watching his child learn to walk. When you choose to close a useless tab and open a work page, I place a secret smile on my lips, because you just told yourself, I am no longer a slave to comparison. I am someone learning to live with God. When you send that email, not because it is perfect, but because you are obedient, I place peace upon your shoulders like a cloak. No one sees those moments. No one applauds. But heaven records every step in your book of glory. You once thought I only appeared in explosive moments, in miracles, in church gatherings filled with songs, but I am also present in the kitchen, in the office chair, in the blank pages you are afraid to begin. I am there when you open your eyes in the morning and can only whisper, "Be with me." I am there when you close your laptop because you have no energy left. Yet you have not given up on me. You assume the days when you accomplish nothing are failures. But I call them the days I hold you. The days I sit in the chair beside you and breathe patience back into your lungs. Remember the disciples after the resurrection. They did not run across Jerusalem trying to prove that they understood everything. They gathered quietly in an upper room, not loudly, just waiting. They did not know exactly when the Spirit would come, but they knew he would, just as Elijah, exhausted on the road, believing his purpose was finished. The angel did not give him a new assignment, only bread and water. Strength did not come in the roar of crowds, it came in the waiting room. No one saw Elijah eat. No one photographed him. No one praised him. But from that meal, he walked 40 days. My beloved child, I know you often think you are only spiritual when you do great things serving the church, teaching many, caring for many souls. But I also see you on slow mornings when you can barely pull yourself out of bed, brush your teeth, wash your face, and sit staring at a cup of warm water. I am not absent there. I sit in the chair across from you, quietly watching, not pushing, not rushing. I do not say, "Why aren't you doing more?" I simply whisper, "Thank you for getting up. Thank you for still being here with me." In this waiting room, I teach you the art of little things. When you fold your blanket, I teach you to honor your body as a temple. When you wash the dishes, I teach you that service does not begin on a stage, but at the sink. When you clean your desk and throw away papers you no longer need, I teach you to release thoughts that no longer serve my purpose. When you place a small note that says, "Today, one thing with God," it is not a slogan, it is a covenant between you and me. I see you open the Bible while your mind is tangled in 100 worries. You read a few verses and lose focus. Before, you would close the book and scold yourself, "I don't fear God enough." But now, in the waiting room that has been renamed, I invite you to read slowly, even just one verse. I let the light fall upon that verse the way sunlight falls upon a seed. It does not need to be a chapter. It does not need to be a year-long reading plan. It only needs to be one verse absorbed. I can use one verse to change a day, a season, a life. You think small steps change nothing. But look at Elijah. New strength came not in the moment he worked miracles, but while he lay under the tree wanting to die, and I fed him. One meal, then another. Then he walked 40 days. You want to fly, I teach you to walk. I do not despise your short steps. Each step is a small amen to my word that the waiting room is not where you are forgotten, it is where you are cared for. When you finish one small task you once procrastinated, I want you to pause for a second and realize I just agreed with God. Not agreed with a ceremony, but with a click to send an email, a folded shirt, a decision to close a meaningless video and go to bed 15 minutes earlier. I am in those details. You do not need to evangelize the whole world to partner with me. You only need to be faithful to the moment in front of you. Those very moments will piece together the path that leads you out of the waiting room when the time comes. In this new rhythm of life, you will find yourself scolding yourself less, not because you became highly disciplined overnight, but because you know I do not lead you with a whip. I lead you with a hand. Each time you fall, I do not mark a deduction, I extend my hand. Each time you delay, I do not turn my back, I remind you the waiting room still belongs to me. And you still belong to me. Gradually, the voice of judgment within you will grow quieter, and my voice will grow louder, and you will begin to distinguish the sound of the accuser from the sound of the one who guides gently. You do not need to run far to find me. Only place your hand on the cleared table and know that I am sitting beside you. You do not need to know how tomorrow will break the cocoon. Only know that today I am here. The waiting room is no longer where your soul is drained. It is where I restore you piece by piece, rhythm by rhythm, breath by breath. You are no longer shooting arrows into the dark hoping one will hit. You are learning to place one foot on the ground, then another, under the light I provide. And so, the wound of comparison begins to close, not by motivational slogans, but by the truth that you are not forgotten. You are simply being held in my hands until the winds are favorable, the soil firm, and the roots deep enough to rise. My child, from today onward, the waiting room is not the black hole of your life. It is the room where I dwell with you. And once you know I am there, silence is no longer a threat. It becomes the blanket laid over your mind, so you can learn to sleep peacefully in the midst of what has not yet come. My child, I do not ask you to make great promises after hearing these words. I simply invite you to do one small thing with me today, not to prove that you have understood, but to begin living as someone who has been renamed within the waiting room. You do not need to write long-term plans. You do not need to report to anyone. You do not need to post anything anywhere. You only need to place your hand over your heart and slowly say, "This waiting room belongs to you." From now on, each morning when you wake, you no longer look to your calendar to see who you are behind. You look to me to know with whom you are walking. You do the one thing you are able to do today: send an email, write a page, clean a corner of your desk, cook a meal on time, pray a simple prayer as your way of stepping into the process I am leading. You do not count results, you count the times you choose to act with me. Each time you do, you are laying stones for the house of your future, brick by quiet brick, step by unhurried step. If during the day you feel yourself slipping into comparison, whisper as one walking through a calm hallway, "I am not behind, I am in his waiting room." That sentence is not a charm, it is a reminder that I am sitting beside you. When you feel yourself wanting to quit, stop for a minute and receive my breath. Let peace come before achievement. For peace is the evidence you are walking in the direction I have prepared for you. Beloved child, your life does not need to explode with accomplishment to prove its worth. Faithfulness in the small things today may be what opens great doors tomorrow. I see every seed you sow in silence, and I never forget. When you do something with me, even the smallest thing, it rings like a bell in the spirit. No trumpets, no audience. Only you and me, step by step, day by day, under the gentle light of my presence. So, my child, step away from the old chair with a peaceful breath. Choose one small task you have avoided, and do it as an offering to me, not to prove you have changed, but to prove you trust that I walk with you. The waiting room does not end when the door opens. It becomes part of your soul, a place where you learn to live with me in every moment. And when your time comes, you will walk forward, not because you are ready enough, but because I have made you ready. My child, I know that after you finish reading these lines, you still have to return to your room, your schedule, your unfinished tasks. That is why I do not hand you a long to-do list. I give you a few small appointments with me, so that each day the waiting room becomes a place of light. When you feel overwhelmed by the backlog of tasks, pause and ask me, Lord, what is the one thing you want me to do with you today? Then wait a moment. Do not rush. Let a small idea arise, perhaps reorganizing a folder, replying to a message, writing down a reflection, calling someone. When you do that thing with the awareness, I am not doing this alone, you have taken another step inside the waiting room. I also invite you to create a fixed moment each day, not to keep a rule, but to keep relationship. It could be 5 minutes before you open your phone, or 5 minutes before bed. 5 minutes to place your hand over your chest and tell me about your day, what made you glad, what made you sad, what you postponed, what you completed. You do not need beautiful language. I understand broken sentences. I understand the moments when you simply sit in silence. Those 5 minutes are your way of saying, I know you are in this waiting room with me. If you want a small, visible sign, write on a slip of paper and place it somewhere you will see often. The waiting room equals where God is. Each time your eyes pass over that line, your soul will be reminded that it is not suspended in empty space. When you are tired, you may whisper, I am not late, I am being held for the right train. Those words are not magic that changes circumstances instantly, but they will keep your heart from drifting toward accusation. I also encourage you, when you can, to record the small signs I send in the waiting room, an unexpected encouragement, a peace you cannot explain, a day when you accomplish more than you expected, a day when you rest without guilt. When you look back, you will see that I was never fully silent. I always sent signals, and those signals will become evidence for the future when you enter another season of waiting. You will no longer panic as before. You will say, I have been here before, and he was with me, so this time he will be with me again. Finally, my child, I want you to remember this above all. My goal is not to drag you out of the waiting room as quickly as possible, but to make the waiting room the place where you come to know me more deeply. When glory comes, you will be busier, called by name more often, facing more pressure. If you do not learn to recognize me in the waiting room, you will struggle to find me in the storm. So today, right now, Take a deep breath and say, Lord, I agree to let you teach me in this waiting room. That is all. I will handle the rest. I do not stand at the end of the road checking whether you run fast enough. I walk beside you, setting your pace with my patience. If today you move forward by only one step, I recognize it the way the sun recognizes a sprouting seed. If tomorrow you step back 2 steps because of weariness, I do not retract my promise. I simply extend my hand and wait for you to take it. You do not need to be strong for me to be with you. You only need to be honest. The waiting room is not the place where you brace yourself. It is the place where you learn to lean on me. Like a child learning to walk, not because it knows it will succeed, but because it knows the Father is there if it falls. Rest in this truth. I have chosen you not because you are enough, but because I am the one who is enough. May the word of the Lord continually remind you to live in His faith and love each day. Please click follow and turn on notifications so you do not miss the heavenly and meaningful messages God desires to send. May God bless you. Amen.